Good morning, everybody. Welcome to North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. This event will be recorded and uploaded to the Career USA YouTube channel to view it in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Comments in the Zoom chat do not appear in the recording. If you want to make sure you get a copy of the recording afterwards and Rusty's presentation, if he is sharing it, make sure you put your email address in the chat so Jeff has that. And I guess many thanks to myself for booking Rusty to come speak to us today. It's always a little weird. We will do success stories. We like to hear if anybody has landed. We're not in person today, so we don't have donuts to share. They'll just be virtual. 30-second introductions, job leads, a few reports, and then our main speaker, Rusty. There will not be a lunch today because we're online only. Do we have any landings to celebrate today?
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes, I want to share good news. I got a job offer. The role was posted as a hybrid in Denver, but I applied just to take a chance. Uh, I even joined the second interview 14 minutes late by mistake. It was because of the different time different. But Uh, the team was kind and they waited for me. And I apologize. I even sent apologize email to them. They adjusted the role as a remote for me. I got the offer. But I had in the past, I had an offer that didn't go through. So I still feel a little worried, but I'm staying positive and hoping everything goes, smoothly this time.
Right. Did they give you any idea on when you should start?
Yes, August 27th.
Very cool. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Anybody else have good news to share? Okay. So in the online chat box, we encourage you to put your introductions in there. A lot of you already are, your name, the position you're looking for, how to contact you, 2 or 3 of your target companies, and companies where you may have connections and be able to help someone else out. It's all about networking, and this is how we get it done. So while you're still chatting, we will open up the floor for participant introductions. You're going to do your name, what you're looking for, contacts you need, places you have contacts, and then repeat your name. If you will raise your hand online, then I will go that way, and that'll keep it easier for me to track who's already gone. Don't okay, raise your virtual hands. I can't see people. I can't see everybody's faces today. There we go. Virtual hands. Todd Haney, you're up.
Got to turn on my microphone. Hi, everyone. This is Todd Haney. I'm looking for roles in customer success and communications. I need contacts at Power School and Playlist. I have contacts through my association with the Association for Talent Development, ATD. I'm on the board and can help if you're looking in the realm of learning development. My name is Todd Haney. Thank you.
Tracy Harris.
Good morning. My name is Tracy Harris. I'm a senior search consultant with Thomas Edwards Group. You've probably seen us in some of these other networking groups. We are a boutique staffing firm specializing in accounting, finance, HR, and IT in the DFW area. Again, my name is Tracy Harris.
John Werner.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm John Werner, based just outside of Chicago. I'm currently searching for program manager roles within banking or fintech here in the Chicago area, currently targeting companies such as FICO, Synchrony, and PNC. Again, I'm John Werner. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian McGovern.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian McGovern. I am seeking an HR or benefits coordinator position. I, excuse me, I need contacts at Samsung, Linden Mood Demolition, Misa Imports, and U.S. Anesthesia Partners. I have connections at Mr. Cooper, Korn Ferry, and Hilton. Once more, my name is Brian McGovern. Thank you.
Thank you. William McLaughlin.
Good morning, everybody. My name is William McLaughlin, currently seeking a business analyst role, and two of my target companies include GameStop and Dave & Buster's, and I also wanted to share that the Association for Business Technology Professionals is having their next happy hour, not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday at Kelly's in Frisco. It's located at the corner of Preston and Gaylord. Great opportunity for networking. And advanced sign up is required, and I will post a link to their website in the chat. Again, my name is William McLaughlin. Thank you very much. Happy Friday.
Fabian.
Good morning, folks. Fabian Broncano, Manager, Director of Network Infrastructure. I'm looking, I need contacts at Caterpillar and Cyrus One. I also spent about 22 years at Concentra Health Services. If anyone wants a contact there, let me know. Once again, my name is Fabian Broncano.
Thank you. Steve Rohan. Rowan.
Good morning. My name is Steve Rowan. I'm a retired .NET developer. I've got contacts at Fiserv and the VA. My name is Steve Rowan.
Humphrey.
Good morning. My name is Humphrey Columba. I'm looking for a job as a quality assurance analyst. I do have contacts at Cash America where I work, GM Financial. So my name is Humphrey Columba.
Rihanna.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rihanna Kajik. I'm looking for an analyst role. I've been a healthcare analyst for many years. I would like a contact at Baylor Scott and White. That's one of my target companies. Once again, my name is Rihanna Kajika. Oh, and I have contacts at many healthcare companies in the DFW area. So please contact me if you need any.
Fantastic. Dana.
Good morning. My name is Dana Peelan. I'm looking for operations and project management roles. I'm literally a week or so into my job search. I haven't identified a target company yet. I have contacts at ADI Global. My name is Dana Peelan.
We're glad you found us, but sorry you're here. Holly.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Haley Bridgewater, and I am looking for roles in product or brand marketing, also spanning to event marketing and integrated marketing as well. Ideally, I've been looking in the beauty and the resale field, but I am opening my scope. So whether that's telecommunications, finance, I'm open to marketing roles across industries. Um, as far as contacts, specific companies, I don't say I've recently graduated, so I've been reaching out to my network to see if they're able to help, connect anybody that is looking for specific roles. If I know anybody in an industry, I'm reaching out. So don't hesitate to reach out. I'll put my information in the chat. Thank you all.
Florence.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Florence Hogan, and I'm a customer insights and market intelligence leader. I connect customer, competitive, and market intelligence to increase sales and drive business growth. I am looking for contacts at JP Morgan Chase, at TIAA, and at State Farm. Again, my name is Florence Hogan. Thank you.
Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Grice. I'm a geographic information systems professional. I am currently looking for a contact at Range Resources in Fort Worth. And my name is Jeff Grice.
Sally.
Good morning. My name is Sally Sharp. I'm a human resource leader, and I just started a couple of days ago my job search. So I am adjusting to where I need to find some target companies. So brand new. I am looking for HR leadership roles in the Frisco, Plano, Louisville, Farmers Branch area. Been an HR leader in various capacities, mostly small to mid-sized markets or industries. My name is Sally Sharp, human resource leader.
Thank you for being here. Sorry you have to be here.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I know we have people who've not gone yet. Anybody else?
This is Florence. I apologize for interrupting, but I'm seeing a message saying that Larry added Read.ai meeting notes to the meeting. Read provides AI-generated meeting summaries to make it more effective and efficient. Are we supposed to have that on? I don't see a way to turn that.
I declined all of the read requests that came in. I declined them. So people were trying to, but because Jeff records it for the channel, we don't use those. So nobody should be recording. I don't see anything in here, and I rejected them all.
Okay.
Rosina.
Good morning, Nikki. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. My name is Rosina Gallman, and I'm your Career Tip of the Week host, so I'll be back shortly. I'm looking for a position as a senior talent acquisition business partner, senior recruiter, HR generalist, or HR specialist position. I'm looking for contacts this week at HR Catalyst Consulting, Goldman Sachs, and Gartner. And then I have contacts at a variety of different places where I've worked over my last 20 years, so to speak. And again, my name is Rosina Gallman, Senior Talent Acquisition Business Partner, Senior Recruiter, HR Generalist, or HR Specialist position. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Ellen.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Ellen Beth Levitt. I'm a public relations and communications pro with extensive healthcare experience, including roles at 3 large academic medical centers over almost 30 years. I am looking for a new position, a communications director or manager position, and even open to freelance, part-time. So if you know anyone who could use some communications assistance from somebody who's very skilled and experienced, I'd really appreciate any tips that you might have. Again, my name is Ellen Beth Levitt.
Thank you. Ray.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ray Day. I'm a system and technical analyst with almost 20 years experience. I'm looking for a product support or application support role in I prefer remote position if possible. And my target companies are Bank of America, Chase, AT&T, Toyota. And again, my name is Ray Day.
You, Britt. Try that again.
He's
Britt
muted.
Jennings. There we
Okay,
go.
now can you hear me?
Now we can
Sorry.
hear.
All right, my name is Britt Jennings. I'm looking for a controller or accounting management position, preferably as close to Plano as I can get. I don't have any particular target companies at this point. I've worked in multiple industries for different kinds of companies, so I'm just looking for the right position somewhere. My name is Britt Jennings.
Vishal.
Good morning. Hi, this is Vishal. Vishaleshwar, and I am looking for data product type roles and technical BA roles. I don't like to box myself into a title because there are multiple titles I can have. But I'm from a data analytics background. I need contacts at um, probably American Airlines and Southwest, but also in the finance and the insurance domain and automotive if possible. I may have some contacts at Toyota and some automotive companies. Feel free to reach out to me if you need any information. Again, my name is Vishal Ishwar. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol.
Morning. I'm Carol McCullough. I'm known as the one who gets it done. I'm looking for my next president or COO assignment in diversified industrials, specializing in the HVAC and also access security systems area. We make engineered electrical equipment as well as provide the associated professional services like site engineering, installation, spares, and repairs. I used to attend this group every week. I come from central New Jersey, and I've had a conflict every Friday morning for a long time, so I'm glad to be back. And I'm part of the New Jersey contingent, so we welcome folks from your group to our groups on Saturday mornings, and we meet tomorrow. So I'll put that information in the chat. Glad to be here. Carol McCullough.
Super. Thank you. Jeannie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeannie Asante. I'm looking for director, engineering manager roles. I target fintech, technology companies. My interests include Microsoft, Capital One, for example. I have contacts at Wells Fargo. My name is Jeannie Asante, and my preference is AI strategy. That's what I work on and teach.
Thank you. Anyone else? Locke.
I'm Locke Alderson, a retired recruiter who spent 43 years in industry and recruiting and HR with government electronics and consulting firms and software firms. And I've spent 25 years in career consulting as a volunteer, and I've also worked at outplacement for a couple of outplacement firms along the way.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes. My name is Dr. Michael Meyerson. I'm looking for a medical science liaison role with a pharmaceutical company. I need contacts at Myriad Genetics, Taiichi Sankyo, and also Bristol Myers Squibb. I have contacts at my previous employment, including St. Angelo State Supported Living Center. My name is Dr. Michael Meyerson.
Thank you. Last call. Anybody else?
Hey, I'm Shelley Traverso, and I'm not finding the hands up, the hands sign to
That's
raise
okay.
my hand.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm Shelley Traverso. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm looking for roles in finance or accounting, a finance manager or accounting analyst. I've been working remotely and hybrid the last 3 years, so preferably that's where I'm going to start in the far north Dallas area, in McKinney or Frisco, Allen. And I'm just getting started. So a target company would be Toyota. And I heard a few people on the calls, or Michelle said that you may have Toyota contacts. I'm Shelley Traverso. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Donald Whitney. I'm a software developer and SQL enthusiast in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm also willing to work remotely. I am Donald Whitney. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. Okay. Next up, we have job leads. Tracy Harris, I know you're on here from Thomas Edwards. Do you have job leads to share with us?
Yeah, happy to share some this week. We are seeing things pick up a bit on the IT side. We do have someone that focuses in those roles. His name's Jason. So his email address is the same as mine, just jason@thomasedwards.com. You can also connect with him on LinkedIn. But we have a senior software engineer, data and AI software engineer, as well as some other security engineers, things of that nature on the IT side. For those of you who don't live in Texas, I will say the majority of these roles are going to be in office or some sort of hybrid role, as we're kind of seeing again on the accounting and finance side as well. But on the accounting and finance side, we've got a part-time bookkeeper, contract position. We've got some HR roles on the Fort Worth side, as well as some various higher level manufacturing roles in accounting. So that's what I'll share today.
Thank you. Does anybody else have a job lead to share?
Hey, Nikki, this is Rosina. One of the people I was talking to recently said that Goldman Sachs is doing a whole lot of hiring, especially in the IT side. So for the IT professionals, take a look at Goldman Sachs because for whatever reason, they are doing significant amounts of hiring. They had tons of jobs posted within this last couple of weeks.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay. Walt Glass with the Interview Success Workshop.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Friday. I'm Walt Glass, and I love to help people gain skills and confidence in job interviews. So out of all the job search tasks and areas that we need to focus on and take actions about, I claim that the interview is one of the most critical. Everything we do leads to that interview. And so how can I help you with the interviewing? Well, I offer a free interview success workshop. What that means is it is a learning workshop. You can go to the next slide if you want to, Nikki. And so what is it? Thank you. So what is it? I'm not reading it. I'll probably miss something on it. But anyway, you got the nuts and bolts there. So you have to register to attend. And look me up on my About section on LinkedIn. It has details about the workshop. Primarily, it is a learning workshop. It is not a mock interview. It's informal. We're going to learn how to sell ourselves as defined by who we are, what we do, and how we help. So how do we move from a simple response mindset to a selling mindset? And what do we sell and how do we do it? And that's what the workshop objective is. So we will cover the 12 basic categories of questions, and you'll look at how we approach what might be the strategy or structure for that category of question in our preparation for interviews. So I'll be glad to have you participate. Send me a note. My Yahoo address is on my banner LinkedIn page. And say, Walt, I'd like to register for the workshop. I do it on Tuesdays on Zoom, 9 to 11. I'll do 2 people at a time. You interview each other with the questions that I provide to you in the chat window when you're the interviewer. You will get a recording of your interview as well. And in this interview, you can pause, you can think, you can start over. It's not one that you got to just jump in there and figure out. I really would like to have no stress, no struggle. We're just here to learn, and we're here to have a good time while we're learning. So I call it learning without squirming. Well, for the workshop, does preparation matter? No, not really. That's what comes after. All that's required is a resume and a job description. The workshop will provide the winning prescription. I am Walt Glass.
Thank you, Walt. Dallas Pit Crew, do we have anybody here from the Pit Crew? If not, I can absolutely do this. Okay. The Dallas Pit Crew meets once a week on Wednesdays. The first, second, third, and fifth Wednesdays are in person at the church where the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group normally meets. Online, they are online only for the fourth Wednesdays of the month. So if you live farther away and can't be in Plano for the meetings, that fourth Wednesday is a great place to still get involved. This is an opportunity for you to submit a resume and job application for something you want to interview for, practice for, either an aspirational job or a job interview you have coming up. And they put a panel together, you get to practice, and then you get feedback before or after on what you can do to improve. If you would like to participate in that, email dallaspitcrew@gmail.com. You can find the link on how to participate in that online one on fourth Wednesdays and even in person on Jeff's careerdfw.org website. And now we have career tip of the week with Rosina Gallman.
Thank you, Nikki. And again, happy Friday, everyone. All right. This week's tip of the week. So the article that I'm going to be reading a summary of is a very lengthy article. I'll drop the article link in the chat, but that way you can go back and look at the entire thing. But basically, this week's tip of the week is coping with job rejection fatigue. How to bounce back stronger after repeated no's. So as I said, we're just going to cover the article summary. And so when you're coping with job rejection fatigue, first, you want to understand what job rejection fatigue is. And it is a cumulative emotional and physical exhaustion caused by repeated job rejections over time. According to recent research, Trend reports nearly 32.4% of job seekers experience this exhaustion, driven heavily by automated screenings, algorithms, and impersonal hiring processes. So for the new people who are on the call, guess what? Sometimes you just might expect to see those thanks but no thanks emails. That's what I'm talking about here. So again, dealing with the understanding of job rejection fatigue. Well, the reality of the numbers. Research shows that the average candidate experiences 6 to 10 rejections before landing a job offer, with individual confidence typically beginning to decline after the 5th rejection. You have signs and symptoms of this happening, and so rejection fatigue manifests through decreased motivation, anxiety when opening emails, self-doubt, insomnia, and physical stress. Left unchecked, candidates often fall into the desperation applying, settling for lower paying jobs or poorly fitting roles just to end the process. So at least be aware of what's happening. So the second thing would be the psychology behind the strain. Social rejection isn't just uncomfortable. It triggers the exact same neural pathways in the brain as physical pain, further Furthermore, human evolutionary biology wires us to treat rejection as a personal threat to survival. So when you receive multiple rejections in a row, your brain develops a rejection sensitivity, making each subsequent no feel more severe than the last. And to combat this, job seekers must view rejection as objective information regarding fit, timing, or competition rather than an evaluation of personal worth. So keep in mind, it's not you, it's what's happening within the job market or within that company, within the fit that they need, the timing and the competition, because it's high competition out there right now. So the third thing that you want to look at when it comes to job rejection is the hidden cost of unaddressed fatigue. Allowing rejection fatigue to control your search can lead to long-term career and life consequences. So it can lead to career stagnation, financial and relationship strain, as well as network damage. So career stagnation, accepting mismatched roles or under negotiating salary out of desperation. Financial and relationship strain is where your extended periods of time without income and emotional withdrawal from personal networks. And then network damage, that will appear disengaging or disparate away from your professional interaction. So number 4, there are 8 strategies to reclaim your job search. First is reframe rejection as redirection. Treat every no as an indicator of incompatibility rather than personal failure. Keep a list of aspects about the job or about the rejected roles that were not ideal anyway. Second, you want to prioritize quality over quantity. Abandon the spray and pray method. Submitting 5 highly tailored, well-researched applications yields significantly better results than submitting 20 generic ones. Third, you want to establish rejection recovery rituals. Use a 24-hour cooling off rule. After receiving every rejection, before applying to the new one, allow a brief window period to process disappointment constructively. Fourth, you want to build a resilience toolkit. You want to incorporate daily mindfulness, physical exercise, and personal hobbies outside of the job search to maintain identity and perspective. Fifth, you want to set structure and boundaries. Limit active job searching to 2 to 3 hours per day. Keep bedrooms and meal times rejection-free zones by shutting off notifications on your devices. 6, you want to leverage support networks. Join job search support groups, work with career coaches, or simply talk openly with trusted friends to avoid feeling isolated. 7th, you want to track non-offer progress, and that's by measuring progress through skills that you've developed, networks that you've expanded, and positive interview feedback that you've received, rather than relying solely on job offers. And then 8th, as far as a strategy, you want to practice self-compassion. Acknowledge that hiring decisions involve external variables outside of your control, such as internal candidates showing up, budget shifts, or sudden headcount freezes. So those are outside of your control anyway. So again, don't worry about those thanks but no thanks letters. It's just going to move you forward. So some action plans and next steps. You're going to have either the immediate, which would be within the next 24 hours, your short term, which would be the next week, and then long term, which would be the next month. So immediate, you want to select one boundary strategy, such as setting strict application hours, and implement it immediately. For your short-term action plan, you want to review your current applications, pause high-volume submissions, and select 3 to 5 targeted roles that genuinely align with your goals. And then for a long-term strategy, you want to establish a sustainable routine balancing search activities, health, networking, and professional support if fatigue does persist. Now, I want you to remember, every rejection removes an option that was wrong for you, moving you one step closer to the right opportunity. Rejection fatigue is one of the most challenging aspects of job searching, but it doesn't have to define your career journey. The research is clear. This experience is temporary and manageable when you have the right tools and mindset. Remember that 75% of job seekers eventually land positions that they're happy with, and many report that their dream job came after a series of rejections that initially felt devastating. Those rejections weren't roadblocks, they are redirections toward better opportunities that were worth the wait. So the strategies that we covered work best because they address both the practical and emotional aspects of rejection fatigue. And your current struggle with rejection fatigue, while it is painful, it is building character, resilience, and self-awareness. So take heart in knowing that every no brings you closer to the right yes. Your persistence in the face of repeated rejections demonstrates exactly the kind of resilience and determination that employers value. And the right opportunity is out there. And by taking care of your mental health and implementing strategic approaches to your search, you're positioning yourself to recognize and secure it when it appears. So one last remember that you're not just looking for any job, you're looking for the right job. So that search does take time. It involves some rejection and requires resilience. You will have all three, and your ideal opportunity is waiting for you to find it. So I hope you guys enjoy this article. Like I said, it's coping with job rejection fatigue, how to bounce back stronger after repeated no's. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody.
Thank you, Rosina. There is no scheduled lunch today with Jeff out of town and all of us online. So I hope you eat something yummy. If you want to receive today's materials, make sure you put your email address in the chat window. This recording will be posted on the YouTube and Career USA channel. And Jeff will send a link out probably tomorrow, but it might be next week when he gets back into town, just in case. So make sure you have that email address in the chat if you want the materials. And now it's time for the main event. We have Rusty Wright, who has kind of turned himself into a bit of an AI expert and has all kinds of great tips on how you can use AI and ChatGPT for your job search success. Ready, Rusty? Oh, and next Friday we have Paula Asanoff, the job search ecosystem. Rusty, I'm going to stop my share so you can take over.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Nikki. Can you confirm, are you seeing my slide there?
I do see your slide, yes.
All right, fantastic. Appreciate all your help. And after just talking about rejection with Rosina, I feel bad about putting this kind of slide up there. But there's a reason for it. I think many professionals that are in transition, when you start talking about a job search today, it can feel a bit like a kite dancing in a hurricane. You're doing all this work, you're updating LinkedIn, you're reaching out to your network, working on your resume, preparing for interviews, etc. And now, in recent years, we've got this whole new headwind that's entered the storm, and that's artificial intelligence. And for some folks, AI feels like, gosh, just one more force that's pushing against you, another tool that you've got to learn, another signal to interpret, another source of uncertainty about how hiring decisions are made. But our purpose today is not to add to the turbulence. Our purpose is to help calm the seas, bring a little clarity to the environment that you're navigating, and equip you with practical tools that make your efforts more focused and more effective so that you're ready when job opportunity lightning strikes. A little bit about me. I think it's important for you to know that I don't hold an advanced PhD in artificial intelligence or machine learning. I'm not a Python guru. In fact, I'm a lot more like you than I am a developer. And that's important for you to understand because everything that I'm going to show you today in terms of tools and tips are things that you're going to be able to do as soon as we get off of the webinar today. Now, a quick note, I don't distribute the full presentation that you're seeing today because it's got videos in it. The file is huge. But what I give you at the very end is a link. You'll get a little QR code link, and that's going to take you to a survey, 5 questions that'll take you 20 seconds to do. And when you complete that survey, there will be a link to take you to my prompt download. That prompt downloads more than 20 pages, including everything that you're seeing today, plus a whole slew of other prompts that are job search related. So you'll get that at the end. If you need to take individual shots of slides, you're welcome to do that as well. So as I mentioned, I'm a lot more like you. I am and have been a job seeker, doing the same kind of battle that you're doing. But my background is that of a global marketing professional. And as a global marketer, I've always been asked to look into my crystal ball to understand what were the trends and technologies that are going to be coming down the pike that are going to impact how consumers are interacting with companies, with brands and products. And more than 4 years ago, I saw the AI train coming down the tracks, and I knew that as a marketer, I needed to learn as much about the technology as I could because it was going to change my world. And as a manager who manages a lot of young teams, I knew it was going to be changing the way that they worked. And so I immersed myself in the technology of the times, stable diffusion models, etc. And then fast forward to November of 2022, and a little tool called ChatGPT came out. Well, I was an immediate adopter of this, and within 30 days, I began teaching other professionals how to utilize this technology. Over the last 3.5, closing in on 4 years, I've had the privilege of training more than 4,500 executives around the country and currently have relationships with the Public Relations Society of America to do all of their AI training as well. So, what are we going to be covering today? 3 parts to today's presentation. To begin with, we're going to take a quick look at where the tools are, and we're going to talk a little bit about the process of selecting a tool, which one's the best, which one's the smartest, etc. So that you can understand which tool or set of tools you might want to consider using going forward. The meat and potatoes of today's presentation is part 2. Here's where we're going to get into prompt creation. And I'm going to show you what I feel are the 6 components of a good prompt. And then what we're going to do is take those components and look at real life examples and application in the world of job search. Now, even though I'm showing you in the context of job search, what I'm hoping is you're going to connect the dots back to other parts of either your personal life or your professional life where you can start to say, I can use this same kind of technique and apply it in this area. If we have time today, we'll talk a little bit about some of the advanced features that are with some of the paid frontier models that are out there. So for folks who might be thinking about, gosh, is it going to be worth my while to upgrade from a free account? We'll talk a little bit about the pros and cons and what you get. And at the very end, we're going to talk about where things are moving. Most of us have heard about prompting, but where the world is moving is definitely into the world of agentic workflows. And so at the end, I'm going to show you an actual workflow automation that you can apply to job search. So a quick poll that I normally do at the beginning of these presentations, I ask you to think about where you are on the spectrum in terms of your learning. 3.5 years ago, when I started presenting, almost everybody was at level one, but these days, the numbers are all over the place. There are still many, many people that are just starting their journey with AI learning. But many folks have also moved into being casual users or regular users or even advanced users as well. A couple of caveats for today's presentation. First of all, the technology is evolving and changing quickly. And what that means is your experience working with the models may be slightly different than what you see today. And very importantly, know that it's going to continue to evolve and change over the coming months and years. As an example, last month I was out at South Lake Focus Group giving this presentation, and my presentation ended at about 12 p.m. Literally within 5 minutes of me ending my presentation, ChatGPT announced a major replatforming where they changed the configuration, they changed some names. And so for many people walking out of my presentation, they were looking for some of the terminology, and it had changed literally within 15 minutes. Another caveat, though, is if you are in a role and you're looking, if you're working on an enterprise system, or even if you're working at home but you've got company data, please make sure you know what your corporate IT policy is regarding the use of AI. Want to make sure we don't put you or your job in jeopardy. And of course, we don't want to expose your company data to any kind of threats that are out there. So I used to begin these presentations by doing a long expository of the history of AI. But for the purposes of time today, what's really important for you to take away from this slide is we're going to be talking about a subset of a subset of a subset of AI called generative AI. This is a practice that's been around essentially since about 2014. But most of us didn't really start to hear about it until of November 22, when this little tool entered the market, ChatGPT. And I'd like to start my presentation with this and talking about the etymology of the word ChatGPT, because I think there's a few nuggets that are in here. To begin with, chat. That's actually not anything new for most of us, right? We've been using chat to communicate with websites. If we go on AT&T or Verizon or our Apple account, right? But what's starting to change is the way that we interface with chat. It's not just about typing and texting anymore. A chat has moved into the multimodal world. We can talk with chatbots. We can give them images and documents that they can understand. But the real interesting part of ChatGPT is the GPT portion, which stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Generative is what makes it very different from the older evolutions of AI. A generative meaning that it can generate or create something completely new versus kind of the old rules-based machine learning that was out there. These generative models, you can give them 5,000 pictures of a dog, and it can create a completely new image of a dog that's never existed before. P stands for pre-trained. These models have been trained on a huge corpus of information. The first models of ChatGPT that I was working with were around 300 million artifacts, but these days they hover at a trillion plus artifacts that they're working with. So essentially, the depth and the breadth of the internet. Now, the T, the last part, is transformer. No, this is not those giant robots that are in the movies. This transformer actually takes your input, whether that's text, whether that's image, whether that's voice, and tokenizes it, turns it into a digital language that gets sent to the algorithm, interpreted, and then transformed back into your output format, whether that's text, whether that's image or music. And so that's what the ChatGPT, that's how it got its name. That's what it stands for. Now, I always put this up. This was what we used to see in the early days of using ChatGPT, but it is still true today. These models may occasionally generate incorrect information. As I mentioned, they're trained on the depth and the breadth of the internet. And we all know that there's no incorrect information on the internet at all these days. So it's that old adage of garbage in, garbage out. Also, these models may occasionally produce harmful instructions or biased content. I want to stress that that is less of an issue now than it was 3.5 years ago, but you still occasionally hear about issues that are out there. One thing that's changed over the last 3.5 years is something called a hallucination rate. And a hallucination is where you ask the model for an answer and it doesn't have that information or it's having a hard time finding that information. And so what it decides to do is make up information for you or essentially lie to your face, many times very convincingly. The good news is in the early days, the hallucination rates were around, 25 to 30% for most of the average models that are out there. And in most cases, those have dropped down below 5%. But, it's still 5%. And so what this really means is that you need to take on the role of editor in chief to validate the information that you are getting back. Maybe you're not always creating the information, but you always need to be validating it. So, which platform to use? This is a question I get almost on a daily basis. There are so many options out there. Generally, my response is if you have something that is working well for you, I would be inclined to tell you to stick with it until you sort of reach any kind of limits on it, whether that's the free version going to a paid version, or whether you're trying to decide, do I switch from Claude to ChatGPT or vice versa. The models have all gotten very close together. I tend to talk a lot about ChatGPT because that is the dominant platform that's out there. These numbers were just run yesterday. So you can see ChatGPT in terms of global usage is around 58%. And that number hasn't really changed that much over, the last 18 months that I've been tracking it. I will say Claude's number has gone up a lot since last summer. Google Gemini is in the number 2 position, about 28%. But what I tend to find is a lot of folks start off with one tool and they may end up having actually 2 or 3 in their toolbox as they get comfortable with AI. As I mentioned, the tools are moving a lot closer together with their model intelligence. If you look at the latest benchmarks, the clustering is very close together. And what tends to happen is, one week, Anthropic will come out and say that they've got a brand new model and it will raise the test score slightly. 2 weeks later, OpenAI will come out with its new model, and it will either meet or slightly exceed what the other one has been doing. And so my message here is intelligence really isn't an issue with any of the models these days. And so some things to really think about are some of these other areas. So if model intelligence is sort of a standard baseline these days, what are some of the other factors? Well, over here in green is something called the context window. And a context window is the amount of information that the model can ingest as both an input and an output back to you in one prompt, right? It's kind of like how big of a bite can it take? And that's going to include things like ingesting documents that it might give you or doing research and extracting information. And so there is a difference in context window size between some of the models. Most of the time, you won't notice this, but if you have a very long and complex prompt, you might actually have better luck in Claude because it has a much larger context window. Now, right across from that in purple is something called persistent memory. And this is how much the model is building a memory of you, your history, and how you work. Now, I've been working with ChatGPT for almost 4 years now, and over that time, it's built a huge amount of knowledge about me, how I write, what my clients are, what my projects are. And so that in itself is of huge value. That's not something that I can easily pick up and move to Claude. Although they try and create tools to do that, it just doesn't have all the files, it doesn't have all the projects, etc. So if you've been working for a long time in one system, think long and hard before going to a new system because you'll take some time to build a new persistent memory. Last but not least, in orange are tools and connections. So many of the tools are similar, but the way these models are moving is away from being just a single chatbot into a tool that can connect with other systems and perform other activities. So we're going to look at some of those today as well, but for example, ChatGPT has a tool called Deep Research, which is available to free users. That is a great tool, especially in job search. I'm going to show you how to use that a little bit later. Now, Claude doesn't have that in its free program. It has it in its paid program. So there are some subtle differences between the tools that these models have. Claude has a bigger context window. ChatGPT has deep research. So some trade-offs. And again, what I like doing is having multiple tools that I can use depending upon what the job is. So speaking about tools, I want to show you some updates on the current free ChatGPT web interface because it changed a little bit in the beginning of July. They replatformed it. And as I mentioned, they added a few things and changed some vocabulary. One of this is something called a plugin that is located over on this left-hand toolbar. Plugins allow you to connect ChatGPT to outside resources. For instance, you can now connect ChatGPT to your Outlook email, to your Outlook calendar, so those themselves become a source of data for the model to look at. This is Claude. Claude has something similar. Now, Claude doesn't call it a plugin, they call it a connector down here. They also have plugins, but this they actually call connectors. And it's a slightly different interface in a slightly different location, but many of them are similar to what's in ChatGPT. So I'm going to shift gears now and we're going to start talking about prompting because this is probably what's most valuable for a lot of job seekers is really building this muscle. I ask folks to think about these large language models as if they were brand new interns that were coming into their company. They have an Ivy League education. They're really anxious to get going and positive, and they've got a lot of great skills, but they don't know you, they don't know your company, they don't know your brand, they don't know your process, they don't know your problems. And so that's where you need to add guardrails for that intern. And you need to do the same thing for a good prompt. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. 6 components that are going to help shape your prompts. They are in order of importance: task, context, exemplar, persona, format, and tone. And now, my caveat is I've given you 6. Rarely will you have to use all 6 at the same time. Many prompts you'll be able to get away with using 3 or maybe using 2. But I want to show you each one and show you how it actually shapes the prompt so that when you're not getting the answer that you want, you know which component to add in and adjust. So the most important one is task. Task is what really articulates the end goal to the model. And if you don't have a task in there, you're not going to get very far. These tasks generally start with some kind of action verb like analyze, summarize, create, transpose, synthesize, compare, etc. So when you're seeing that kind of action verb, that's going to be a general indicator that it is a task. So let's start off with tasks as a building block, the most basic component. And in our example, I'm going to ask the model to research 3 cookie recipes. So that's all we give the model is a simple task. Many of us probably create prompts that look like this. Now, the model doesn't have much information to work on. So it's going to go out to its 1 trillion parameters that's been trained on, and it can come back with literally anything. It might have grandma's secret oatmeal raisin recipe. It might have some Japanese cheesecake cookie recipe. There's not a lot of guidance or control. That's where the next component comes in, which is context. Context is the component that constrains all of those endless possibilities. It can sometimes be tricky to figure out, how much context should I give it? Especially these days, the context windows are so large that we can give it tons and tons of documents, tons and tons of instructions. For me, the litmus test is I ask myself, does the model understand my background? Does the model understand what success looks like for me? And also what environment they're operating within. And so now let's take our building block and add in context here in red. So we're still researching 3 cookie recipes, but I have a gluten allergy and I am seeking a dessert that I can eat. Very important information. We give it background and what success looks like. I want a dessert that I can eat. So now the model's going to go out. It's going to look for all of those things and probably come back with something that's gluten-free. The next component is exemplar. Exemplar is just a fancy word for examples. These AI models love examples, and they like them because it gives it a framework, a reference point to be able to utilize. Now, they're not required for every prompt out there, but what I generally tell folks is if you're thinking about your prompt and you think about an example of how you want something to look or the format of something, you can give it an example to reference. So now let's take exemplar and let's layer that one into our prompt. So in gray, I've said, please include recipes by celebrity chefs. For example, Martha Stewart, Rachel Ray. So now the model's going to see that, and what it's going to probably do is go out and yes, we will probably get some examples of Martha Stewart and Rachel Ray, but it will also look for people like them. So maybe I'm going to get Jacques Pepin or Bobby Flay or one of those other celebrity chefs that's out there. Next is persona. So persona is what subject matter expertise we would like the AI to apply to our prompt, kind of the glasses that we wanted to look at the problem through. We can ask it to assume the persona of a managing director of a large bank or a social media expert, or even an individual person like a Steve Jobs. But you can also start to imagine if we change that persona, how that might change the result. If I asked it, to write in the persona of Steve Jobs versus comedian Robin Williams, I'm probably going to get very, very different answers out of the model. So here we're layering in persona. I want you to act as a nutritionist advising me on healthy eating and macronutritional information. So now the answer that you're going to get back is going to be written from the perspective of a nutritionist, right? Not just gluten-free, but you're going to get macros and a nutritionist perspective on this. The next component is format. And this is something that everyone kind of forgets out there, and they just take what ChatGPT gives them. Format is what the output looks like. And if you don't say anything, you're probably going to get back paragraphs or bullet points. But ChatGPT, Claude, all of these models can create so much more. Tables, code blocks, mathematical notations, hyperlinks. And beyond that kind of formatting, they can create file formats. So they can create PowerPoint or Excel. I've had it create CAD files for me for animated design. In fact, I'm finding that it knows how to create more files than the ones that I find that it can't create at this point. So if you've ever wondered, good to go in and test. And this is, again, sort of a shortcut with making it give you an output that's matching what you need. Last but not least is tone. Tone is the voice that it is going to write or speak to you with, right? These are typically an adjective or an adverb. Things like humorous and informal or casual and conversational. Again, depending upon how you change this, the writing or the output that you're going to get could be very different. If you're asking for a cover letter that is humorous and informal, it's going to be very different than authoritative and professional. It's going to select very different language for you. So tone, a very important component, especially if you're writing. So some tips for writing stronger prompts. I tell everybody, think of the end keep the end in mind, right? Think about what success looks like, and then back into that, reverse engineer and identify what am I going to need to do to get to the finish line? What are the examples that I might need? Do I need to craft a format or a tone that the model is going to need? Use very simple language so you don't have to speak Shakespearean English here, but be specific. Specific is better than vague for these. As we've mentioned, use examples and avoid any kind of leading questions because these models generally want to please you. In fact, many times you might have heard the term that they can be sycophantic, right? They give you exactly what you want to hear. So you want to make sure that you don't start steering them down a specific ideological path unless that's part of your output. Some final steps to consider with prompting. As I said earlier, you need to be a great editor. If you're not creating the material, you need to be reviewing it in detail. Some things to think about are evaluating the response that you get by maybe asking the model some questions like, hey, Claude, what assumption did you make in your answer? And what that's going to reveal is how the model was thinking, and if that model was thinking any differently than maybe what your assumptions were. You can also ask it what might be missing based on the prompt. Maybe your prompt is 90% good, but it is possibly going to be missing another angle or aspect. And very effectively, you can get it to red team or critique its own output. So you can get it to challenge its thinking, or you can take its response and put that into another model and get another model to critique it. Another thing to think about is just not accepting the very first response that you get. Sometimes iterating really helps you to get to a better place. Often, for example, if I'm getting it to create images for me, I don't have it create one images, I have it create three or four that I can go and take a look at what I like. And the same thing can be with written content in terms of getting some good variation. You also have the opportunity to optimize your prompt. If it's not, ideal when you get your initial response, go back and use a series of questions to move it to what your final output should be. And then when it's done, ask it to rewrite the prompt based on where your final answer is, right? So that helps to optimize it in case you need to use it again, or if you want to share it and give it to somebody else to use. So after you write a prompt, what happens to it? Well, it's going to go over to this left-hand history bar over here. ChatGPT, Claude, all of them have something similar, and it's keeping a rolling list of your prompts. Why is that good? Well, it makes it easy to go and find something that you've used before, and you can reuse it again, maybe just change one or two words or change the attachment to it. You can also archive and delete these prompts as well. So that's in your setting area. Some folks are sensitive to sharing things with large language models and they don't want their history being stored. And so you can go in and archive and delete all of that. And you can also download your history as well. Now you can also change individual prompts. So next to each prompt in that bar, you're going to see these three little dots. And if you click on those dots, it's going to give you some options. You could share this. So I could send this prompt to Nikki Duncan for Nikki to take a look at. I could even start a group chat about this specific prompt. I can rename it. So if AI chose a name that I probably am not going to remember, I can go ahead and rename it to whatever nomenclature is going to help me with my organization of my prompts. I can move it into projects. I can pin it to my sidebar so that it's always there. I can archive it and I can delete just that one prompt if I don't want that one prompt in there. All right, Rusty. Well, thanks for all of this theory on six components of the prompt. How is this going to help me professionally? Well, whether you're in job search or whether you're actually in a company, one of the things that a lot of us are doing almost on a daily basis is a lot of research. And these large language models can be fantastic companions, co-workers to help us with the research. And so for this first prompt, we're going to ask the model to act as a corporate researcher. So let's look at the structure here. Act as a corporate research analyst. That's my persona. Producing an up-to-date company brief. That is my task. This brief is for senior level marketing executives preparing for interviews with Mary Kay. The goal is to understand the company's business model, leadership values, structures, et cetera, et cetera. This is context. This is the environment that we're in. This is what success looks like. Provide a bullet point company brief organization by section, overview, leadership, mission, vision, value. I'm giving it an example of what I want that overview to look like. Your output should include clean bullet points with brief explanatory context, include citations, etc. The tone should be professional, neutral, and evidence-based, suitable for executive briefing. So here I really did jam all 6 components into one prompt. But that was for illustrative purposes. And so this is the output that I got. I chose Mary Kay. They were a company that I worked with for 8 years. If anyone is looking for contacts at Mary Kay, I'm happy to help you out there. I did get everything that I asked for in the format that I asked for. I got the linked citation for what the resources are, and I checked it, and it all looked pretty good. But now let's take this a step further. If you're interested in the financial performance of the company and their public, you can ask it to go in and do some data mining for you. So in this prompt, I'm going to ask it to actually do multiple things for me. And so here's what I'd like you to take away from this slide. You're going to see multiple tasks. I want it to review each company's annual report, extract audited net sales, convert all values to USD, calculate year-on-year revenue growth, and then present the information in tabular form at the end. And so you can have more than one task. You just need to think sequentially, what is the order of putting those tasks into my prompt? So in this case, I'm asking it to analyze 3 different companies over basically a 5-year period and put them into a table. And that's called chain of thought when we put all of these different tasks together. So here's the output, and you might be looking at that and say, gosh, that looks a lot like an Excel format. And indeed, you could have just asked for this to be created in Excel as a downloadable file. But it was able to extract the information. It was able to do some calculations for us because it has something called a data analyst that's built in that uses Python to do math calculations. And it include some notes on where the resources were. So a couple of thoughts if you're doing anything with numbers, and we got a lot of finance people that are on the market these days, and I know they love to use the tools. However, some things to consider. If ChatGPT hasn't told you what are the sources of its data, you need to ask. And if it comes back and gives you some generic answer like, I don't have specific information, this was in my foundational training, that's a red flag for you, right? You want it to give you a very specific source that it pulled from. Now, if you're not sure, one of the little tests are you can click this little regenerate response button here. And that immediately will make ChatGPT or the model run the prompt again. And now what you can do is you can compare response number 1 against response number 2. And if these models are guessing, they're normally not guessing the same thing twice. And so if those numbers are not matching, that's probably an indication that it does not have a good source. Now, the best way to work is actually rooting the model with an actual document. So finding that 10K and then attaching it to your prompt. And the reason that that's good is it focuses the model's attention on something very small and specific. So, for example, if I asked you to read the entire book of Moby Dick, and then I said, what is chapter 2, page 3? You might struggle to actually pull that up. But if I went to Moby Dick and I tore out that page for chapter 2, page 3, and I gave it to you and only asked you to read that, your results are going to be much more accurate. So this gets back to that context window and how much the model can process. So let's move from researching companies into having it help create a SWOT for you. So many people will know what a SWOT is. Stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. A lot of us who've worked corporate jobs have created these for our companies or our competition. And in this case, I'm asking it to be a corporate strategy analyst using credible and recent information from the past 24 months. Create a SWOT analysis for JCPenney's and summarize it into 3 to 4 concise evidence-backed points per quadrant and put it in that classic 2x2 label output. So I like using SWOTs in preparation because, as my friend Walt Glass likes to say, you need to articulate who you are, what you do, and how you help. And very important for you to understand what their weaknesses are, so that you can position yourself to provide help. So here we get that classic SWOT 2x2 box format. And what I would do is not stop here. I would probably do something like take a look at those weaknesses and try and verify where is that coming from and what might the root cause be. So dig into them a little bit deeper, use a follow-up prompt, and then make sure that, as you're selling yourself, you know how you can address their pain points in an interview or potential pain points in an interview. We're all in a lot of online meetings. We're in an online meeting today, right? And everybody is dropping in their details into the chat. And hopefully, what you do at the end is you save that chat. Well, 3 years ago, what I would do is take that chat and I'd open it up, and then I'd go to my Excel chart and I would copy things over and build out my contact list. But now ChatGPT can do all of that for you in 10 seconds. So I'm going to ask the model to extract and organize key contacts from the Zoom meeting. So you can use this one after today's meeting. Please extract the following from the attached Zoom meeting chat: name, industry, LinkedIn profile address, email address, telephone number. Please output in tabular form. Here are the notes, and that's where you're going to attach those Zoom chat notes. And so what ChatGPT is going to do is going to extract exactly those columns that you asked for, and drop it into a table like this, which you can then, just copy over and paste into your ongoing tracking document. Another thing that we are all doing is spending a lot of time on LinkedIn, and trying to optimize our profile, our about section. We all go to the Terry Sullivan webinars to find out, what's happening with the algorithm and what we need to do to be seen. One thing I want to talk about is the organization of your content, and Terry talks about this a lot as well. Many of us have heard the rumor that recruiters will only spend about 5 seconds or 7 seconds to review your resume. So you can imagine they're probably doing the exact same thing to your LinkedIn profile. And now, if I ask you to look at this screen, on the left is a big block of text, and on the right is something that's formatted a little bit differently. And if you wanted something that was scannable, which one would you choose, right? And everyone always tends to agree. So I'm guessing in the chat, people are writing the one on the right-hand side. So in this prompt, imagine you are a LinkedIn expert with over 20 years of experience, someone like Terry Sullivan, helping me to craft my about section. I will provide you with my resume to help you. So the resume in this sense is going to be kind of the context, right, that it's pulling from. Create 3 distinct sections, no more than 2,600 characters, because that is the restriction for the about section, is 2,600 characters. Structure the about section into 3 parts. So here's one takeaway from this slide is when you're getting it to write for you, it doesn't have to write everything exactly the same way. You could have it structure a first paragraph one way, second paragraph another way, third paragraph yet another way. And in this case, the first paragraph is going to summarize who I am, what I do, how I help, using clear and direct language. That second section is going to include bullet points that showcase my key accomplishments or quantified successes in order of importance in a very short and focused format. And then the third section is a call to action. What do we want people to do when they read our profile? How can they get in touch with us, etc.? And below at the bottom, you'll see in purple, this is our tone. Make my about section warm and friendly by writing it in the first person. This is something Terry advocates to help create a personal connection with the reader. So when I do that, it did indeed all of those different sections, who I am, what I do, how I help. We see the scannable accomplishments here. They capitalize things, even put little icons or check marks next to it, and then created my call to action. Also on LinkedIn, if you've got an ugly LinkedIn picture, there is no longer any excuse because AI now can create very realistic photos of you. This was not the case a year ago. They did not pass my wife's sniff test. And what I mean by that is if I created an image of myself with AI, my wife would look at it and say, oh, that's so AI. Back in the fall of 2025, the tools have had a significant upgrade. And specifically, we can now, in yellow here, ask it to maintain the exact facial structure, identity, and key features of the person in the input. So I'm not going to go through this whole prompt. This will be in my guidelines at the end for you to copy. But the good news is that, you can take a picture like this of this guy here, and the output can actually be something that's fairly professional. And so even if you look like this guy, you can look as professional as this guy. Now, you're in job search. You need to be staying up to date on trends in the industry that you're coming from. Or maybe you're thinking about going back to an industry that you worked in 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, but gosh, you're not up to speed on the trends. Here's where AI can be that great research partner for you. So you are a SaaS industry consultant providing executive level insight. You're going to change that to whatever industry you're in using verified up to date sources only. That's very important when you're looking at trends. I want up to date sources only, such as major consulting firms, government databases, trade associations, or reputable media. So you're going to put this prompt in, and what you're going to get back are three different trend prompts that are in here, right? In bullet point formats with the metrics. We see the sources. Gartner was one of the sources down here. Again, don't stop just with the high level trend. Dig in a little bit deeper, use a prompt chain, and continue your thinking by saying, please expand on point number one. You don't even have to say what it is, just say point number one. Include the names of companies or organizations that are leading this trend and examples of the product or service they provide. So now when you go into that, interview, you not only know what the trend is, but you can speak to the competitors and their products as well. So much more depth. A great tool, and I talked about tools earlier on, but a great tool is something called deep research. What is it? Well, it looks a little bit like a prompt on the surface, but what it is actually an agent that will go out and autonomously perform this multi-step, very deep research on the internet, helping to build out a super comprehensive report for you. So that sounds great. What are the challenges? Well, if you're a free user in ChatGPT, you only get 5 deep research reports a month. And so they need to count. You don't want to screw up your prompt. write a prompt, get the result, and be like, oh man, I wish I'd asked for this, or I wish I'd asked for that. And so my solution or my suggestion is before going to deep research, start to craft a deep research prompt using a traditional large language model to write that prompt for you. So yes, you can get ChatGPT to write prompts for you. So in this case, I want your help creating a deep research prompt. That's our task. I am interviewing with company X and I give it a website and I need to orient myself to the company history, business model, products, etc., etc. Anything that helps me thoroughly prepare for an interview. So that's what success looks like. Create a detailed, deep research prompt to help me achieve this. So that's the output that we want. Create the deep research prompt. So now the model is going to go in, it's going to take a look at your company website. It's going to figure out what information, does Rusty or this person need to get to the finish line in a deep research prompt. So this is not deep research. This is the actual prompt that it created for me. Act as a McKinsey level strategy consultant and category expert in beauty tech. So it analyzed the website that I was giving it and said, okay, this is the industry that we're looking at, home use aesthetic devices, medical grade skincare. So it got very specific, and you see it even created its own persona. So it prompts a little bit like the way I was telling you to, right? Then it gives us the objective. And in our deliverable format, you'll see there's 13 different components that are in here that need to be researched and delivered upon, including it gives us style and formatting rules, what sources that it should mine, the different websites that it should go to, different industry reports that it should use. So now what we do is we just copy the prompt that the model created for us, and we drop it into our prompt window, we click the plus button, and now we enable deep research. And so deep research is going to go off and it's going to think. And it's going to think. And if I can get my slide to advance here, let's try that. So it was thinking and it was thinking and it was thinking and it thought for 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's a long time, right? But what did it do? It generated this 27-page report with 117 different citations. Think about how long it would take you to go out and do that amount of research with those number of citations that are there. And it's covering everything from giving us a quick snapshot at the beginning to doing a deep dive on their company history, milestones, business model canvas, product technology, portfolio, in this case, regulatory and clinical evidence for their product, market and consumer insights, competitive landscape, go-to-market distribution, etc. And at the end, actually almost 3 pages of bibliographies for us to go in and check the kind of sources that they use. So incredibly powerful, whether you're looking at trends or whether you're looking at company research. This is not just giving you a quick paragraph. This is really doing a deep dive for you. So do other platforms have deep research? Yes, but Claude has it, but it's only in their paid tier right now. So you're going to be part of their $20 a month plan if you want to have it in Claude. Same thing in Perplexity. Their website says that they give it away, but it's locked on my free account. So you can go ahead and try and see if you can get it with free, but I think it's paid. Gemini does have it, Notebook has it, Grok has it, and Copilot have it, all with limits. My understanding is if you're a Copilot user, they're going to be changing their deep research on the 18th of August. It's going to, they're going to retire the old system, and there's going to be something new called Researcher, I believe. Don't quote me, but that's what the reports say. So let's talk about some other ideas. We're now going to get it to analyze 2 different sources and compare them. And ChatGPT is really good, or Claude or Gemini, really good at comparing not just two sources, it can compare three, four, five. So if you've got regulatory documents or auditing documents that you need to compare, you can start to attach them. It's important to understand what you need to be looking for when you're doing this, though. So we're going to talk about this in the next section. So in this case, I'm giving it my resume and I wanted to analyze it against the job description. So it's a recruiter. I wanted to compare the two and identify synergies and gaps to be explored in an interview. And so what it came back with was an assessment of where I've got some good alignment with this job and where there's some potential gaps in my resume. And so I wanted to do an exercise with this and show you how using these tools you can technically improve your resume going forward. Many of you will have heard of a tool called JobScan. JobScan is an online platform where you can load in your resume, load in a job description, and it's going to score your resume against that job description, including looking at it from an ATS alignment perspective. So with my situation, I dropped in my JD, my resume, and I got a score back of 39%, which means I'm not getting a phone call for an interview. So I wanted to see how far I could move this. So the first thing I did was to say, now, based on the job description, please identify the top 8 key headline words that I should include in my customized resume. Please list these in order of importance. And so those headline words are very important. We talked about scanning resumes, right? And so if you imagine your resume and superimpose the letter F over top of it, well, the first thing they're probably going to do is look at your executive summary, read that real quick. Then they're going to drop down to that second horizontal line, and that's going to be those keywords. And then they're going to go vertically down the side of the F and look at your chronological work history there. So getting those top key headline words, very important, and the model does a great job at doing that. Just by doing that, I moved my score from 39 to 51. Next, I said, based on the job description, please suggest the key experiences and achievements from my resume that I should highlight. Maybe some of my bullet points were the last bullet point and they should have been the first one. Maybe I need to do a little rewording to make it fit their language. So by tweaking some of those things, not making them up, but by tweaking some of those things, I was able to move my score from 51 to 60. Now, my third step was now to go back to my executive summary. And I said, based on my job description, my strengths, and any gaps, how should I customize my professional summary in less than 60 words? That's important because if I just said create an executive summary, it'd give me 3 paragraphs. But less than 60 words will keep it tight. Now, one additional option is if you've got some experience from your early career that you want to make sure is highlighted, you can say in your prompt, ensure you mention my experience at Unilever, at Procter and Gamble. If you worked for a blue chip company, but it's on page 2, and you want to make sure that gets noticed, you can pull that into your executive summary. At the end of the day, I started off with a 39 and I was able to move that score to a 73. Now, this job wasn't a particularly good match to begin with, but it was more an exercise of how can I align language? How can I align with the ATS systems? So now we've had it look at 2 different documents and give its critique. What we're going to do now is have it look at 2 documents and create a completely new third document. In this case, it's creating a cover letter for us based on that job description and your resume. So here's the prompt again. This is going to be in my prompt guideline. Notice at the bottom, I'm asking it in purple to maintain a tone that is executive level, concise, confident, and human, avoiding cliches, avoiding filler, and avoid restating my resume in the cover letter. Use a standard US business letter format with placeholders when data are missing. And so it came back with this, and not a bad attempt. But here's the cool thing when you're working with any kind of writing is if it's too long, you can simply ask ChatGPT to shorten it by 50% or 25%. If you don't like the language, you can adjust the voice, tone, and style by saying, make this more approachable and slightly more friendly. Or conversely, make it more professional and authoritative. Very importantly is to double check for errors, to tweak it, and to personalize it to make sure that it sounds like you. So the error part is important, especially when it's working with multiple documents. So as an example, the job description might have asked for 10 years, and I actually had 20 years of experience. Well, what's the model going to do? The model may default by saying, Rusty has 10 years of experience because that's what the job description said. And all of a sudden, it doesn't jive with my resume. So that's part of the reason you need to double check and make sure everything is correct and in alignment with your background. Some other ideas that are kind of HR and recruiting related. You can actually have ChatGPT interview you using its advanced voice feature. So you're going to give it the resume and the job description, and then it's going to interview you against those two. You can even get it to interview in a specific disc style. So if you know the disc style of the person you're going to be interviewing with, maybe they're a high D or they're a high S or a high C. You can have it use that style in an interview. Now, if you're the hiring manager, you can compare multiple candidates against a JD and get it to show you the pros and cons where there's good alignment with different aspects of the role. You can have it generate interview questions based on that candidate's resume and job description. So help you prep for the interview that you're getting ready to conduct. And very importantly, you can use it yourself or for others in the onboarding process. And so in this prompt, we're going to ask it to assist you in creating an onboarding plan for the first 90 days in your new role. And here's where you're going to insert what your title is. You're going to add key details about your roles and responsibilities. And maybe down here at the bottom in red, add any specific challenges regarding, maybe some things that you found out in the interviewing process that were pain points that you need to be thinking about. Now, in the center here, we're giving it an exemplar. The plan should be based on the principles and concepts from the book, The First 90 Days by Michael Watkins, with a particular focus on the onboarding checklist, including business orientation, stakeholder connections, etc. So, folks, here's the takeaway from this slide. These models haven't just been trained on artifacts and text, they've been trained on a lot of business literature out there. So, if you want to build a prompt and pull in a certain business practice or principle or framework, these models are able to reference those frameworks. So, whether it's the first 90 days, whether it's atomic habits, I gave this speech to the Public Relations Society of America. You can pull in things like crisis management, etc. And it can use those frameworks as examples for you. So we're going to transition now to talk about some of the advanced features that are available. Some of these are in ChatGPT only. Some of them will be in other platforms. The first one that most platforms are using is something called projects. They came out last year in many of the different models. They look a little bit like a file folder. And on the surface, that's kind of what they are. You can put a lot of prompts in there and organize them, but they are much, much more powerful because these projects actually have the ability for you to upload reference documents to them and for them to have persistent memory to remember everything that's happening in that project. So, maybe if you're working with different clients, you can build projects around those clients with all of their information inside. So, how do we create a project? Well, in ChatGPT, we're going to go over to the projects area. We're going to click New Project. This is available for free users as well. The first thing you're going to do is go up and you're going to decide the memory. The default gives it memory across all of ChatGPT, or you can select memory just for that project so it doesn't pull in anything from the outside. Next, we're going to give it a name. We can call it anything we want. I'm going to create a writing project where I keep my writing stuff. So we can use icons and colors. I'm going to select this little one here that's pre-populated, and I create my project. So now it's an empty shell. What we're going to do now is add knowledge files. So I want it to be able to reference my different writing. And so here I'm going to give it examples of what my writing styles are. Next, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to add instructions. And these instructions are going to tell it how it should be performing anytime it's using this project. And we're going to save that. So now it's got instructions, it's got knowledge files, and I can start working in this project. Let's see. So now just to kind of give you an example, over here, we see a number of the projects that I have. Here are all of those project files. And if I click into them, you can see I've got a general writing style that I like to use. I've got a text and email writing style, LinkedIn post writing style, network follow-up. So now those are kind of like exemplars, right? To give the model, here's an example of how Rusty writes when he creates a LinkedIn post. Here's the instructions that I gave it. Begin by asking me, what writing style would I like to use? And then display a numbered list. So now when I go into this project and I start to work, it just knocks out a numbered list that says, pick the writing style that we're going to use. So let's talk about how we could use this in job search. So one idea would be to create a project that has all of your core job search information in it. Maybe it's got your master compiled resume with, everything that you've ever done in it. My master resume is, I think, 14 pages long. So now it's got a document that it can go in, it can look at a huge amount of detail about my past experiences. I've loaded in my LinkedIn profile. I've given it my Clifton strengths. And you can even give it things like all of your interview star stories that you've been developing. And now I give it these instructions. And so anytime now I drop in a job description, it starts doing all of these different tasks for me. It gives me kind of a matching score and it gives me all of that feedback that I was doing manually before. It creates that professional summary and puts it into a paragraph of less than 60 words, etc. So I can build all those instructions about what I wanted to do with job search documents. Here's another idea. You can use it to help your network. So maybe you're in a small accountability group that meets once a week. And so what you could do is you could put each person's LinkedIn profile into the knowledge documents. And so now, anytime you see a job description that might fit Han Solo or Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader, you can check and see, oh, okay, this is a great fit for Darth Vader. And it can, craft an email for you, etc., that you can then forward on to your contact. So you can help other people in your network. The next feature is something called scheduled tasks. This is only available in the paid version of ChatGPT. And what scheduled tasks allow you to do is assign and track and schedule prompts that you do over and over and over again. So what might that be? Well, let's talk about how to create it. So we're going to go over to schedule over here. Um, then what you're going to see is the active items that are in your schedule. This is important sometimes if you create a scheduled activity and you don't really look at it, ChatGPT knows that you're not looking at it. And so it will say, I'm not going to waste my energy on creating something that you don't look at, and it will move it into a paused category. So here are the active ones that we have. And here's where you're going to go in and create a new one. So let's look at what one might look like. It's a little bit like a normal prompt, except for this green section here every morning at 8:45 a.m. So that sets the schedule, and the model's now going to make this happen every day at 8:45. In this case, I'm going to ask it to search for new job postings with whatever title I want. I'm going to have it exclude postings that are older than 3 weeks old. I'm going to have it validate the links that it finds. I want it to compare it against my attached resume and then prioritize the listings that most closely align with my experience and give me those links in its output. So when I wake up every morning, I go and I check, and in my task, that's already been completed. Now, if I want to edit anything in the schedule or change my prompt slightly, I just go to that section that says scheduled prompts. I click on it and I can change the frequency down here. And up above that is my prompt. I can alter and tweak that prompt if it's not working the way I want. Now, one note about scheduled tasks that I've noticed is they tend to run well for about a month. And then, for whatever reason, the model starts to get a little bit tired and doesn't do a good job of executing. And so, what I tell folks to do are simply copy the old prompt, create a new scheduled task, paste in that prompt, and then delete the original one that you have. And that tends to refresh the way the model is working. New plugins or connectors, these would be called in Claude. So these are the new ways that we can start to take these models from just being these passive, prompt response models into things that are agentic and that can take action and interact with other tools. So I'm just going to run this for you here. So for instance, if you wanted to connect with Booking.com, it could go in and connect with their system, book your trip for you. Same thing with Figma. Same thing if you had a CRM system like HubSpot or Salesforce, you can now connect it. Spotify, you can connect with your Spotify accounts and create your playlist based on that. And now all of that information will exist in your Spotify account. So that's a quick explanation of what they do. How do you find them? So in ChatGPT, and I've got the wrong screen because this changed, so forgive me. They are going to say plugins on the left-hand side. You're going to click the plugin to add it, and it's going to connect you through either a password or whether you're using Google OAuth authentication. It will use your Google account if that's one of the option. But you have to go through that security sign-in account to connect the plugin before it will work. So how do I then get that plugin to work in a prompt? Well, you're simply going to use the @ symbol and type in the plugin name. So if I wanted it to use Gmail, I would say, use my @Gmail to search for today's new email listings. And that's the way that it's going to enable it. Many of the models are smart enough for if you just say use email, it will invoke the plugin automatically. So let's talk about an experiment of not just one plugin, but how can we connect some different plugins? So I'm going to suggest you try this actually in Claude because ChatGPT does not give you the Gmail plugin for free. You have to be a paid subscriber for this to work in ChatGPT. ChatGPT has all these other plugins. If you have an Outlook account, you can do it with Outlook in ChatGPT. But this one I'm showing you here works in the free account of Claude. So you're going to enable those app connectors for Gmail, for your Google Drive, and for Google Calendar. And my caveat is, please make sure you're comfortable with connecting those accounts, right? So you're giving access to the large language model. So you have to make sure you're comfortable with that. Next, you're going to create a Google Sheet and you're just going to name it Job Tracker. That's all you're going to do is just give it a name, and then you're going to copy that file path from the browser. And then I'm going to give you a prompt that you can paste in along with that job tracker browser path so that it knows where to go. And let's talk about what's going to happen. So what it's going to do is it's going to start by scanning your email, and it's going to look for the last 72 hours. And it's primarily looking for things that are going to be job search related, like applications or recruiters or any kind of outreach that you might have gotten, a LinkedIn email with job suggestions. Next, it's going to identify and filter those. Which ones are really high value for you versus kind of what's just a bunch of noisy garbage that you don't need to pay attention to. It's going to extract structured details from those things like companies, roles, titles, what was the source? If it's an interview, what was the next step? And then it's going to take all that structured detail and it's going to go over to this job tracker and it's going to automatically populate that information. And the first time you use it, it's going to build out all of the column headers for you automatically. And next, if there's some kind of action that needs to happen, it will create a calendar reminder for you in your Google Calendar. So, if someone is requesting an interview at 10 a.m., it will throw that in there. If there is no follow-up or anything like that, it won't add anything to your calendar. And what you'll see in the model, excuse me, is a confirmation report that looks a little bit like this. It's called a daily run summary. And in this example, it looked at 50 different emails. It figured there were 5 that were really kind of high signal threads to focus on. It found 16 that were job search related and added 3 new rows to our worksheet. There were 13, there were duplicates, right? So of our 16 job search related, 3 were new, 13 were duplicates. So that's why it didn't include those. And so it shows you what the new rows were that were added. So now this is that Google Sheet, the blank Google Sheet that we started off with, and it's populated all of this information that you can see, all of the metadata that it's captured here. I'm going to see if it kind of scrolls over. You've got a thread to where the message is. It's come up with some different notes for you to kind of summarize follow-up due dates that might be in there, etc. And so, folks, that's a way that we start moving from prompting into building workflows with some of these new tools. And so we are now at the end of my presentation and really at the end of our time today. This is the link to my prompt template. So whether you want to take a picture of it, screen capture, etc., if you scan this with your phone, it's going to take you to that survey. That survey is 5 questions long. It's going to take you 40 seconds to fill out. And after you click submit, look for the link to my prompt template. Okay. So I'm going to leave this up. And I'm going to ask Nikki, if you're there, I don't have the view of my chats right now because of my screen sharing. Are you able to feed me questions?
I am here, and right now there are no questions. Does anyone have a question for Rusty? There's a lot of, you're awesome, Rusty. You always over deliver. Great information, great presentation.
My head is exploding. Thank you, folks. While you're getting the survey, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. However, please include a quick note in your invitation. I get so much junk mail from salespeople that if it doesn't have a note, I generally don't accept blank invitations to connect. But I'm happy to be a resource to share my network for job search. And if you have AI questions that you get stuck with, I'm happy to be a resource there as well.
Ellen Beth wants to know if you can import an Apple email instead of a Google one. And I got to say, I was playing with the import thing, the plugging like you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I didn't see Apple as an option in the paid.
Apple does not, as I checked last week. So you do have Outlook. So if my unknown question right now is if you add your Apple account to Outlook, if it will pull in and whether you'll be able to connect via your Outlook account, right? Because you can add different accounts to Outlook as well. So I don't know, but as of today, Apple doesn't have a standalone. Gmail, yes. Yahoo, no. Outlook, yes. I don't think I've looked at any others.
Super. Anybody else?
Nikki, this is Jerry Jones.
Hey, Jerry.
Hey, Rusty, on using like deep research and things like that, does that burn through tokens faster?
So deep research is not related to your codex subscription or your token limit. You are given a dedicated allotment, which is why if you're on the free version, they only give you 5. If you're on the paid version of ChatGPT, I think it's about 25 deep research responses you get. But I haven't noticed that that has in any way impacted my Codex weekly allotment of tokens.
So even that 117 pages, et cetera, is just considered one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of an interesting thing. I talked about ChatGPT having a smaller context window than Claude, but when you do deep research with it, it gives you a much larger context window for that specific activity.
So that's not at all related to like computer in Claude then.
Well, you could probably get very similar results using computer or co-work in Claude if you structure a prompt that way.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Is there a way to interact with ChatGPT that is not menu driven, or more direct?
Oh, so absolutely. So the voice feature is one of the primary ways that I'm interacting versus text right now. So I have the app on my phone. And when I go out for a run every day, I run 5 miles. That is when I do my collaboration with ChatGPT. And I will turn on the voice mode, and it is recording everything in a transcript that we're talking, but I don't have to type. And in fact, if you're using the desktop application for ChatGPT, you can turn on that voice mode and it can see all of your different screens. So you can ask it questions about what it's seeing on screen number 1 or screen number 2, and it will interact both with you on the voice and interact with your computer that way. So, for instance, I could tell it using the desktop app to search my emails, to draft a quick note to Nikki Duncan thanking her for her fantastic help today. I could ask it to create a PowerPoint presentation that's edited based on the latest information that I just got back in my deep research. And it can take all of that information, create subagents, and execute those things all with my voice.
I've used that on while I'm driving down the road on the way to and from meetings.
Yeah.
Either to work out something on the way to a meeting with a client or on the way home to capture notes from the meeting with the client before I forget anything. One more question, Rusty. Now that Claude is adding watermarks to its output, how do we avoid it when we ask it to produce a document?
I don't know. That just happened yesterday, or yesterday or the day before. I can't remember which. So I don't have a good answer for you on that one. I'm sorry.
What if you copy the text out and paste it into your own document?
Yeah,
And then
or take it over into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to, edit for grammar and punctuation, and then you get ChatGPT's output. So that's a quick workaround, but an added step.
Can I say something about that, Nikki?
Absolutely.
Yesterday in in South Lake Focus Group, somebody brought up that either you give credit to the AI that on the document to get around that watermark, and the other suggestion was taking it and taking the response from AI and manually typing it into Word. That way you avoid the watermark. You're still getting the data from AI, but you're not, and you're avoiding the watermark.
Gotcha. I don't use Claude, I use Chat for almost everything.
I don't think that it's capable of copying the watermark into a text file, a plain text file, not a rich text format.
I think the watermark is being implemented across the board, not just cloud. I think it's gonna be in ChatGPT as well.
It's everywhere. That's what I can't remember the gentleman's name now. He did cybersecurity.
I think it's Ryan. Ryan, I was part of that.
I think you're thinking about Royce. Yeah.
Royce.
I think that watermark and how all that's going is a whole other conversation.
Right.
Okay, well, if there are no more questions for Rusty, I'm going to steal the screen. And then we will finish out. Next week's presenter is Paula Asanoff talking about the job search ecosystem. This is a new presentation for her. She normally does, what is it, the art of hello? So she's doing a new thing, so that'll be exciting. The video, if you want to watch it when Jeff gets it online, you can go see this or any other of the presentations. Go to youtube.com/CareerUSA. He's got several different playlists. If you locate the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group speakers, you can see the entire playlist. And most of the primary speakers start roughly 30 minutes into the presentation. So you can see hundreds of past presentations there. And here are some examples of them. Creating a personal pitch deck, 10 job search rules you should break, open forums with Walt and Matt Keelan, and the joy of stress. Who knew stress was joyful? On Tuesday, if you need help with your LinkedIn, Ruth Lipsky will be doing LinkedIn Tuesday. Every Tuesday, there is a different presenter on optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Just go to careerdfw.org or careerusa.org, and you can find that link on the calendar. The practice interview team meets Wednesdays as a reminder. The fourth Wednesdays are online only. Again, the link can be found and the information on address and stuff can be found on the website. And be sure to tune in next week for Paul. Well, this says Paula Calise, but it should not be. Maybe it is Paula Calise. Something was wrong. And Jeff says there will be special instructions for what door to enter. So watch your emails. And coming up the week after that is Clifton Strengths with PJ Dunn. I know a lot of people attend the South Lake Focus Group online and are not able to do the Clifton Strengths presentations that they have in person there. So we are going to have a Clifton Strengths presentation here online. So if you've not already done it, it will probably be helpful if you go out to Gallup and do your Clifton Strengths and at least get the top 5 and see what they tell about you. Again, no lunch today. Thank you for joining. Make sure you have put your email address in the chat if you want today's materials, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Wonderful presentation, Rusty. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rusty.
Thank
Very
you,
well.
Rusty.
Thank you, Rusty.